at a certain point, I think a lot of these building owners and management companies see the writing on the wall coming with policies changing not only at the city level, but also at the state level
Mhm.
with like benchmarking and conservation codes coming out, stretch codes coming out that they're going to need to basically comply with within the next, 10 to 20 years or the next 2 decades. So, in the lifetime of a building, that's pretty short. So they need to start investing now, and if they have free help from a local nonprofit, then they're going to jump at that. So that's
Right.
that's kind of what our selling point has been there. But then also, we are encountering a lot of building owners who do care about their tenant.
Welcome to Home Green Homes podcast. I am Izumi Tanaka, a green home advisor and a green realtor. Here I invite a variety of experts in the world of green homes and have conversations about how we can all live in healthy, resilient, and efficient homes. My guests provide insight in a wide range of topics, from designing, building, and living in green homes, purchasing or financing green homes and improvements, to how we can live to reduce the negative environmental impact from the way we live. My goal is to inspire and inform you about how we can make a difference in our own lives and our environment. Hello, this is Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes podcast. Today, I have a special guest from USGBC-LA, Will Norton, and he is the Sustainability Program Manager at USGBC-LA, and he is here to talk to us about the brand new program that USGBC-LA has launched recently called Green Affordable Housing Program. So, Will, thank you so much for coming today to talk to us. I really appreciate it. Before we begin, just for those people who may not be familiar with USGBC, maybe you can just briefly tell us what USGBC is.
Yeah, absolutely. So USGBC is a local nonprofit. We are about people. We're passionate and practical, informed professionals who advocate for work together to transform Southern California into a more sustainable region for all. USGBC is the best place for anyone to learn about why, who, and how on living sustainability, because business as usual is no longer an option. Our members are the heart of the work we do and are passionate about inspiring and accelerating change that achieves a more equitable and sustainable built environment for all.
Thank you. So USGBC-LA is a part of USGBC as a whole, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
LA,
we're a local
mhm,
chapter.
And I understand USGBC-LA chapter is one of the largest chapter of USGBC.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe it is. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now in terms of members, but yeah,
Mhm.
we've been growing. We're a small but mighty team. I believe I'm the 12th employee, so
Oh, wow.
we're hoping to add lucky number 13 soon. So we have lots of work under our belt. We've been operating for about 20 years, but really ramping up in the last couple of
Mhm,
years.
That's right. Thank you so much. So, so let's dive into talking about this new program that you just launched. It's called Green Affordable Housing Program. It sounds so great, So I'm really anxious to hear more about it. So if you can tell me the genesis of this program, is it USCBC LA that came up with this idea?
Yeah, so under the leadership of our executive director, Ben Stapleton, we have kind of combined in an innovative way three different funding sources from LADWP or district, the District of Water and Power, not the district,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, the
Mm-hmm.
Department of Water and Power,
Uh-huh.
Cal EPA, and the Tech Clean California Quick
Mm-hmm.
Start Grant. So we have three different grants that are going into this. And the genesis of the program was we knew that there are disadvantaged communities throughout Los Angeles who face disproportionate amounts of pollution in their local communities as a result of past racist historical policies, but then also built infrastructure and unforeseen consequences when it came to adding things like railways and highways to areas where people live and work. Particularly, we are focused on Eastern San Fernando Valley for those reasons. And I can dive a little bit more into those later too.
Okay, so tell us exactly what the program offers.
Yeah, so we're definitely on a mission to deliver low to no cost community resources for lowering energy and water costs, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions and creating more affordable, comfortable, and healthy environments for building operators and also their tenants. So there are 6 different kinds of buckets that we have offerings in. We are offering free to no cost community electric vehicle charging stations. We're offering installation of a heat pump, space and water heating technology. We're also offering enrollment assistance with the Department of Water and Power's programs and rebates for equipment and just cost reduction. We're also doing free air quality monitoring and on-site water testing. We'll also be offering tenant workshops in English and Spanish, covering utility savings and how to improve occupant health. The last thing that I want to mention is that all participants of the Green Affordable Housing Program will receive access to 2 innovative building technology pilots from our Net Zero Accelerator. And that's Yellowton, which is a personal emissions and savings calculator, and Dynamex, which is a larger network of buildings that they are building for building operators and managers, but also anyone who's interested, to show them exactly where their power is coming from, at what times, and also where they can reduce costs and emissions even further.
I see. So when you say participants, I heard you say building operators and tenants, both.
So our main clients will be building operators and owners. But what we're doing is we are trying to make the changes part of the community and inform the community about why these changes are important, so that they in turn can make more informed decisions about their own family's health, energy choices, and so on.
So how do you reach them? Building operators, when you say building operators, those are the owners of apartment buildings or single family homes?
So these are all multifamily homes. The eligibility is the building must have 20 units or more and be affordable. We are emphasizing naturally occurring affordable housing, but we're also allowing subsidized housing into the program as well.
Okay, you said naturally occurring affordability. Is that what you said?
Affordable housing, yeah.
Can you define that? I'm really curious how you define the affordability part, especially naturally
absolutely.
part too.
Yeah, so naturally occurring affordable housing typically is in low income areas where the rents are a below market rate. So they're about 80% of market rate. And typically these are in buildings that have been not maintained as well as they might have, or they might have other issues like being sited near large pollution sources or a busy road. That would lower their rents naturally, because people either don't want to pay that much to live in that area, or it's the only place that they can afford to live. So why we are targeting naturally occurring affordable housing is because the programs in the past have largely ignored, at least in the LA region, ignored multifamily housing and especially housing that isn't part of low income programs already. So these are kind of the hardest owners and operators to reach, but their tenants need the most in terms of help and cost reductions.
I see. I see. So I know that this is a very new program so far with USGBC-LA. And how are you reaching out to the owners and when you say operators, does that include management companies or?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you reaching out to those participants?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways. We're not relying on one method in particular. We are reaching out through personal connections that we have here at USGBCLA, just through our past work, to realtors and developers. We are also, we have relied on partners to provide their lists of clients that they've worked with in their in the past, to reach those folks. And then also we have a couple of lists of potential clients in the area from different sources, whether that's like the violations list or from the city or just other publicly available lists.
So it may be a little too early, but do you have a sense of how it's being received so far?
That's a good question. I think that there are there's lots of interest. I think the issue is, one of the issues is that these buildings are in low-income communities and they have lots of deferred maintenance already building up. So taking on large capital projects in right after the pandemic, when lots of tenants have also not been paying rent because simply they can't, puts these building owners kind of in a tricky position where they can either prioritize work that really needs to get done, repair work, or they can, talk to us and possibly spend a little bit of money to get these new clean energy technologies. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's a balancing act for them, and it can be really tricky.
I would imagine that the owners of those apartment buildings or rental units, especially in LA or California, we have the rent control issues where and with the moratorium during the COVID, they are not able to evict the non-paying tenants, and a lot of them are not willing to, like you said, spend a lot of money to upkeep the units, and let alone to even consider the energy efficiency and clean air and all these things. That must be really challenging to persuade those so-called building operators. And do you find that, do you feel any resistance in the field?
I don't think we encounter a lot of resistance. I think mostly because our audience is self-selecting. Those resistant populations wouldn't necessarily join a webinar or look or investigate a program called the Green Affordable Housing Program. But yeah, there's definitely some hesitation there. But this is also, these are larger buildings. We're looking at 20 plus units buildings. So at a certain point, I think a lot of these building owners and management companies see the writing on the wall coming with policies changing not only at the city level, but also at the state level, with like benchmarking and conservation codes coming out, stretch codes coming out, that they're going to need to basically comply with within the next 10 to 20 years or in the next 2 decades. So in the lifetime of a building, that's pretty short. So they need to start investing now, and if they have free help from a local nonprofit, then they're going to jump at that. So that's kind of what our selling point has been there. But then also we are encountering a lot of building owners who do care about their tenants. They do care about their tenants' health. They don't want their tenants to be suffering. They have a heart and understand a lot of these people. They know a lot of these people. They might even live in the same building, so they understand the stakes.
Right. So it behooves them to really take advantage of programs like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but like you said, the ones that really care about their tenants are the ones that may have already contacted you or signed up. But how do you plan on those who are not coming to you, or who are not even aware or doesn't even come into their consciousness? And what do you have a plan to reach those people, those
Yeah. So
building operators?
what I would say is this is a small pilot program. We're
Hmm.
only we're only going through 10 buildings this year and then 10 buildings next year.
Oh,
So
I
it's a
see.
very small population of buildings.
Hmm.
But what we're trying to do is help these large management companies or building owner portfolios to understand what it takes to do this kind of work, what is
Hmm.
required, and how long it takes. So kind
I
of dipping
see.
their toes into the water of energy efficiency and new technology like heat pumps and get
Hmm.
them familiar with it
Hmm.
and to understand how to operate it and how it runs and the benefits of
Right.
it as well.
That's so great. And so that you said 10 this year and another 10 next year. And
Correct.
so you will be providing the heat pump systems or EV chargers. You said it's a community, so it's not like within the building itself, or but is it like in some street that you're going to be putting the EV charger?
So the community EV charger, so what that means is instead of just being one charger per in one car, it will
I
have
see.
like 4 different chargers coming off one unit.
I see.
So it will be in a parking lot. It won't be on the street. That permitting gets more complicated.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're looking for buildings that would have a private parking lot. And I will
Hmm.
also say that not every building that goes through this program is going to be a match for every single thing on
Right.
our offering. So
I
there
see.
might be some buildings that do the tenant education, they do the air quality monitoring, water testing,
Hmm.
and they maybe do go through some DWP programs, but they might not get the community car charger or
I
EV
see.
charger,
Hmm.
and they might not get the heat pump water heater, for example.
I see. I see. So it all depends on their situations and conditions of the building and so forth.
Yeah.
I see. I see. So, we mentioned, I had asked you, or I had sent you my question is why only Eastern Valley, but you did mention those are the areas where the railroad is and some busy streets and everything. So why, I mean, in greater Los Angeles, there are many other neighborhoods that may kind of meet that criteria. Why did this program choose this particular Eastern San Fernando Valley?
Yeah, absolutely. So really what we did was we consulted the Environ screen, which is a
Hmm.
map that shows where the disadvantaged communities are throughout the state of California, and really honed in on the San Fernando Valley. One, because we have local connections there. Our CEO and
I
executive
see.
director, Ben Stapleton, is from the San Fernando Valley. So we have a personal connection there. But as I mentioned, highways and freeways, the 118, the 5, the
Hmm.
210, all
Hmm.
ring the Eastern San Fernando Valley.
Yeah,
And the Southern Pacific Railroad goes right through the center. They also have the Whitman Airstrip there that is one of the busiest small airports in the country. So there are, a lot of pollution sources. And there's even a report out that says that Pacoima is in the 96th to 100th percentile for pollution when
wow.
compared to its, other
Hmm.
areas.
Hmm.
On top of that, working in disadvantaged communities, which often can mean low income communities. And we know that from 2000 to 2010, rents rose in LA 31%. while at the same time, incomes only rose by 1.2%. So you can understand why, 62% of renters are housing burdened, and over a quarter million Angelenos struggle paying and end up paying more than 50% of their incomes to housing.
Mm.
So it's a way for us not only to help educate people about how to lower energy costs, but to help them realize that they might be living in an area that not only has lots of pollution, but their homes might be also making them sick as well. Over 80% of LA multifamily housing was built before 1978. And that was before any sort of residential energy codes were adopted in the state of California, or really across the country. So basically what people have these days in their walls, if it hasn't been updated since 1978, is air. There's just an air pocket in between them and the outside. And that's not insulation, that's just air. And I think the R value of wood and air is something like 4 to 7. And we have codes now that mandate that we have like R35 in our ceilings. So going from 4 to 35 is a huge difference. And there are so many knock-on effects in terms of updating buildings to be more energy efficient, whether that's air sealing or adding in insulation, taking out gas ranges and replacing them with induction stoves. There's just so many things that you can do that will also not only bring down your energy costs, but help your health, your family's health. If you've ever heard of the Major Deegan Expressway in the Bronx, a lot of people call it the Major Asthma Expressway because there's so many cases of childhood asthma in the area. And one of the simplest ways that we can fix that is by filtering the air before it comes into the building, making that building super airtight, and making sure that kids and vulnerable populations like seniors aren't breathing in that sort of polluted air, and just doing the best that we can to make sure that everyone has a safe and healthy place to live and play.
I really like the idea. So have you had any of those workshops yet for the tenants? You offer both English and Spanish, correct?
Yeah, we do. We've completed the tenant education portion of the program. We haven't actually been able to deliver it yet. And that's largely because we just began outreach about a month ago. And we're still trying to get clients into the pipeline, get them interested. But then there's also, we want to give a little time between COVID and, conducting a large public outreach session. We want people to feel comfortable coming out into their communities and meeting, us and strangers, so that they can understand that everybody has access to this. So I think the last thing I would say about that would also just be that even if it is just the building that participates in the program, we really want our education sessions to be open to the public, so people can come, they can learn, and they can apply it to their own lives and just make better informed decisions about their energy costs and health.
And so I really wish you success with this program because I think it's a really wonderful program. What is your vision as USGBCLA? Do you think if this pilot is successful, do you see this program to expand to cover larger area of not only LA, maybe larger area in Southern California? What's the vision?
Yeah, I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I mean, definitely expand the green affordable housing program to LA City and the entire city. We know that there are areas that could use, like you said, that could use this sort of help as well, especially like down around the harbor. And yeah, absolutely. We see ourselves, I would say, as wanting to be the leading sustainability nonprofit in the city, across the city, but we also want to be very mindful about being connected to our communities and relying on local partners for help and guidance on what our communities need.
Mhm.
So both being the lead, but also a great partner that different uh, organizations across the city can look to and come to when they have questions about energy, about buildings, about health, anything like that.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And you mentioned in the beginning you had three funding sources. And
Mhm.
as you begin to expand this program, you're going to obviously need more funding. Do you see that there is more receptivity amongst different organizations, whether it's municipal, organization or utilities or a corporation even, to become a partner in this effort to help our city and hopefully larger larger state and the country and the world. Do you see kind of like a climate of um, the funding sources to be more becoming more available for you?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, like I said before, the writing is really on the wall. We're all in the
Hmm.
trenches down here together, fighting against climate change. I can't really think of the last time I talked to a city employee and they weren't interested in fighting against climate change and helping their local constituents prepare for climate change. Um, so absolutely, there is more funding coming down the pike, whether that's through the federal government, the state government, or even locally the utilities.
Hmm.
Absolutely, I think the one real issue now is how do you sort of combine that funding? How do you make it work in unison together? How on the back end do you make reporting not a nightmare? How do you count? You don't want to double count things. You don't want to double dip. So just basically, how do you do it fairly and make sure that the outcomes are shared equally across, the region and throughout housing, the different housing types.
Well, we do have a lot of work to do ahead of
Yes,
us. But
absolutely.
what if you were to give an elevator pitch about this program so that we can speak to the people who might be listening so they can refer to you?
Yeah, I would say the Green Affordable Housing Program is a pilot program in the Eastern San Fernando Valley. We're hoping to improve people's health, but also lower their energy costs and reduce emissions at the same time. And that way we can improve not only the apartment in which you live, but also the community that surrounds you and be a real part of your neighborhood and just community altogether. So we really want to help. We want to provide things that that will be utilized by you, but also understanding that this sort of technology is necessary, but also very costly. So we want to bring that um, this sort of change to your local community.
Thank you so much, Will. I
Yeah,
really wish you success for this program, and I would really like to see this expand to cover many other neighborhood in the city and the country. And I love working with you guys to do this together. So thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you luck.
thank you so much, Azumi. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. This was Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Home.